Hey everybody, it's Flatbread Friday, and I've harvested some kale from my garden. And it is fresh corn season as well, and fresh tomato season. And years ago, I went to the Kentucky Derby, and I had one of the best pizzas I've ever had in my life, a creamy Southwestern corn and tomato flatbread topped with kale chips. So the first thing we're going to do is make our kale chips. Let's do it. The first thing we're going to do is destem our kale branches. We'll start on the thick end. Then we're going to take I've washed and dried this kale. So we're going to take this is a lot curlier than the last kale I used when I made this. Cut this into 1 to 2 inch pieces. Put them in a bowl, make sure they're cut. Save this extra. This will make a nice topper for Miss Kelly's supper. So we'll keep going until we get them all done. Our kale is all destemmed and cut into chip-sized pieces. And now we're going to make our chips. I have the oven preheating to 350 degrees. We're going to drizzle this kale with a little bit of olive oil. That ought to do it. Tablespoon or so. Season it up with some salt and pepper. Make them chippy. Some garlic powder. Some onion powder. Toss them up to coat them. Blend in the seasonings real nice. Oiled up and seasoned up. And now we're going to transfer them to a sheet pan lined with parchment. Spread them out. In as even single layer as we can. And they're going into the oven for about 15 minutes or so. And when they're crispish and brown, well, not brown, but bright green and crispy, we're going to take them out and set them aside because this is going to be our corn and tomato flatbread topper. Looking good. Now it's time to make our sauce, our base for our creamy corn and tomato pizza. Flatbread, sorry. I had another one of those flatbread crusts from last week, so that's what we're using for a crust. And when this starts to get bubbly, we're going to continue on with our sauce. Our butter is getting melty. We're going to season it with a little salt and pepper. Some chili powder. Some cumin. And some cilantro. And get those seasonings worked into the butter. And when it gets bubbly, we're going to continue on to the next step. We're starting to bubble up, and now we're going to sprinkle on some flour and whisk it in. See if that's good enough to make a nice, pretty thick roux. So it looks like it's going to work. Let's see how that comes out. And Then we're gonna continue on. Our roux is a good consistency, and now in comes some half and half or cream, whatever you wanna use. And that's gonna get whisked in as well. And we're gonna keep stirring this constantly until it reaches the boiling point and see what the consistency is. We may have to thicken it up a little more or thin it out a little more, but let's see how it goes. We're gonna keep on going. Our sauce has reached a nice thickish consistency, and it smells so good, and it's gonna smell a little better once we've gone along to the next step, which is a couple of teaspoons of chipotle and adobo puree. And about the same amount of tomato paste, if I had that much, which looks like I do. And we're going to turn off the heat and whisk this in. Till it's well blended. Get that stuff off the sides. And this is going to be our corn and tomato, creamy corn and tomato pizza base, or flatbread. Looking good. Let's continue on. Our kale chips are out of the oven, slightly crisped, and they will continue to crisp up as they cool down. If they're not completely crisp yet, which they are pretty crisp. I don't want to break them, so I'm gonna stop messing around with them. But there are our kale chips. We're gonna set them aside, and we're gonna top our pizza with them when we're done. Flatbread. We're gonna take 2 ears of fresh corn and cut the kernels off into a shallow bowl. Cob number 1 done. And now we'll do the second one. Our corn kernels are ready to go off the cob. And now we're gonna cut up our tomatoes. As you may or may not remember from other recipes, I like to I quarter and seed my tomatoes. These are Roma tomatoes. I have Roma tomatoes in my garden, and some of them are actually starting to turn red. So pretty soon we'll be using my homegrown tomatoes, which will be really fun. And then we cut them into strips. And then go the other way. Make a nice dice. Put them in the bowl. And we're gonna keep going until they're all diced up. Get rid of the seeds, which is my least favorite thing about a tomato. Oh, didn't do it. But we're gonna keep going. Diced tomatoes are ready to go now too. The oven, I have increased the temperature from 350 to 400 degrees. So now we're gonna build our flatbread and cook it up. First thing that's going on is our pizza base, our southwesternly delicious smelling, and it's gonna taste good too. Might be a little hot because of that chipotle and adobo sauce, but that'll go well with the rest of the ingredients. We're gonna spread this all the way around, out to the edges. Our base is on, sauce, nice even layer, all the way over. And now I have a mixture of mozzarella and cheddar that we're gonna sprinkle on. Here's that. The mozzarella makes it a little more melty, but the cheddar goes good with our other ingredients. So we're gonna sprinkle that on. Spread it all the way around. Our cheese is now on, and the next thing that's going on is our corn kernels. Gonna spread them evenly around. I like a lot of corn, so I'm gonna use all of this. It'll be a big pile, but it'll be worth it. Distribute it all the way around. Corn is on. Looking good. That's going to crisp up nicely in the oven. Next comes our maters. Distribute them evenly around. Our tomatoes are on. Looking colorful. It's going to be nice. And I'm going to put a light topping of just plain cheddar on top. Give it a little bit of a crust and a little bit of sharpness. Cheddar goes good with this stuff. And then we're going in the oven for about 15 minutes or so. See what happens when we come out. It's gonna be good. All topped up and ready to go in. Our Southwestern corn and tomato, creamy corn and tomato flatbread. And it's gonna be yummy dummy. And we'll serve it up in just a little while. Our creamy Southwestern corn and tomato flatbread is out of the oven. Looking good, smelling good. And now we're gonna top it off with some of our kale chips. It's a good thing to put these on when the pizza is still warm. And any of the chips that are left over, I'm gonna just eat them. A nice little addition of color and crispiness. And you know, kale is healthy, so that's a good thing. And now we're gonna slice it and serve it. Thank you for joining me for this week's edition of Flatbread Friday. Here's our creamy corn and tomato flatbread topped with our kale chips. And now we're gonna take a bite. So, get up there, you lost them. We're going in. So yummy, and it brings back memories of having this in the past. And I just love corn. And I'm so happy that I had the kale in my garden because that's what inspired me to make this flatbread again. And it's gonna be a yummy flatbread Friday night dinner. And we'll see you again soon.